when you see somebody wanting to create a course or they're wanting to improve an existing one, do you find there's some low-hanging fruits that they should pay attention to so that they could actually listen to this and walk away and being like, ooh, I probably need to look at this?
Yeah, so there are, in my professional opinion, 3 ways to create some kind of online course or group coaching program, what I call the old way, the new way, and the right way. So the old way is basically what we've been doing in classrooms since the 19th century, around the Industrial Revolution, 18th century even, which is basically giving as much content and information as possible to someone and then sending them off on their way to try to figure out what to do with it. The very first online course was made in 1830, and it was a correspondence course sent via postcards. All right. And we've basically transformed those postcards into videos and into membership sites. But it's basically the same thing. Like, a lot of people think a course is about sharing information, but it's not. That kind of course sees about, on average, only 3 to 7% of people consuming and completing that kind of course, because we don't change our lives based on information alone. I mean, if we did, we'd all be living in Googletopia. We would have perfect bodies. We'd have amazing relationships. We'd be millionaires already. We'd have everything we could possibly want, because all the information to do anything we want is available with a few clicks of the fingers on, YouTube or Google or ChatGPT. Am I right? And how many of you know how to do something, but you still haven't done it, right? So that's the old way to create courses, and it doesn't work. The new way to create courses is basically the old way, but you push a button and have AI do all the work for you. And that's even worse than the old way, because it doesn't have your genius and your insight. So what I focus on is the right way to create a course, which is really creating a course that's designed to get someone excited about learning, to awaken and activate their inner motivation and desire, to engage them deeply by really working with the way that we as humans are naturally designed to learn, which means understanding, like our brains. I call it like working with the reward center, which is also understanding dopamine triggers and things like that. So the very first, thing to focus on to create something that's really designed for engagement is to understand what is the core transformation result or promise your program is delivering. And that's not learning everything there is to know about X, Y, or Z. It's something that's really hyper specific. All right, so let me give you an example, because I think a lot of your people are in personal development or in healing. And I had a shaman. His name was Helmut Whitaker. He and his wife, Kay, who had written an incredible book called The Accidental Shaman, came to me. And I'm actually going to try to find the exact example because it's so good. And they wanted to do a course. And he was basically not making any promise at all, because he's like, Marisa, you can't promise instant enlightenment. Am I right? Right? I can't promise this. And I said, well, I understand that you can't promise instant enlightenment, but could you promise that someone would feel, say, universal love for a fraction of a second? He says, well, yes, I could. I think someone could feel universal love for a fraction of a second. And so, what we ended up coming up with was a very specific promise. And at first he told me that, Marisa, the entire shamanic journey takes, get this, 17 years to complete. 17 years. I'm like, Helmut, come on. Like, no one's going to want to wait 17 years to receive any benefit from your class, right? You can't just tell them it's going to take 17 years. And so what I did is I worked with him and helped him create what we call a product mission statement. And the mission statement isn't your mission. It's the mission that you're inviting your student, client, or customer on. And that mission needs to be so clear and specific that you could photograph someone crossing the finish line. Make sense? So it has to be almost binary, where you've either done it or you haven't. And if it's not binary, then it's not a good promise, because people can't visualize it. They don't know what winning actually looks like. So you can't create a course that's just like everything you need to know about X. And by the way, I've tried to take courses like that before. I remember taking an After Effects course, like a Adobe After Effects, which was motion graphics in college. I wasn't working on any project. I instantly forgot everything. I didn't apply it. I didn't use anything of it. I never ended up even taking this whole course being able to do anything with motion graphics, right? versus your mission. If I were to teach an Adobe After Effects, class today, even though that software doesn't even exist anymore, it would be your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to create your first 30-second animation using Adobe After Effects. You see the difference? Versus learn Adobe After Effects inside out. Like, you can get that online. You can get that on YouTube videos. You see what I'm saying? You're putting it together for people and helping them get the result. So back to Helmut. He was like, oh, I can't really promise anything because spirituality takes time and there is no instant enlightenment. And becoming a shaman like what I am takes 17 years. So here's what we came up with, even with a topic that you'd think you can't get to a photo finish around spirituality, but you can. So here's what we came up with. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, and that's the sentence starter I give my students, because what that does is it puts you in their shoes versus coming from your perspective. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is in just 6 weeks. It's important to make a time limiter on something so it feels like, okay, this will happen within a fixed time period. In just 6 weeks, receive the 4 essential gifts that every human needs to feel whole, loved, and on path. The gift of knowing your truth, the gift of connecting to your life energy, the gift of a quiet mind, and the gift of opening to the infinite. So now his students could actually imagine receiving these 4 gifts, which he did through virtual shamanic ceremonies. And the amazing thing is that this was so compelling now that he emailed 18 people with the offer, and actually 21 people said yes. So all 18 said yes, and 3 of them shared it with friends. So he made 21 sales just like that. And I think it was like $11,000 in sales. So now, rather than selling like, let's do some shamanic ceremonies together, he was saying, you're getting these 4 shamanic transmissions through these ceremonies, and each of one of them is a gift of the north, south, east, and west. Can you see the difference?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That to me is a very direct, and as we talk about being specific on transformation and all that, even for people just listening now, you've just given something that we can all take a moment to go look at. What is it we're selling, and does it have that binary promise? And you can even give the sentence structure of your mission, should you choose to accept it. I think that's a big call to action and something that everybody can apply. And it's not rocket science, but it's often ignored. Like, people aren't paying attention to this. We're thinking more like, oh, I need to give more. And that's often what makes us feel insecure. It's like, oh, I don't know if people are going to get transformation from this. I don't know if I'm actually going to help them the way that I'm promising them. So let me just give more, dump. And then that makes me feel better, but I don't think it brings results to the person.
No. It doesn't get them results. And so then people disengage. And they also, if they don't know why they're learning something or they can't see how they're going to put it to use right away, they also disengage. And so I always give the example of what not to do with the masterclass.com series. So they've got all these famous people, like, I think one of them was even teaches space exploration. How do you know when you're going to cross the finish line? And adult learners in particular, Simone Biles teaches tennis. How do you know when you've won? Right? It's just about like learning from famous people. And at some point that gets old. And so the average person's going to cancel after a few months, where they get tired of learning from famous people stuff that they can't apply in their own lives, no matter how famous or good looking that person is. So it actually doesn't matter whether that person is rich or famous or attractive or has a 6-pack or whatever else it happens to be, has incredibly professional, video. What matters is that you're getting someone a specific result. And that result also differentiates you, because that mission statement, the clarity of the promise, is what allows you to be different from everybody else. If you have 20 people teaching you how to use Adobe After Effects, that software, the motion graphics software, one person says, make your first 30-second animation. Another person could say, do a 3-minute commercial. Another person might teach you how to use this for medical animation. Another person might teach you how, teachers to teach it to other people. You see what I'm saying? There's you could have within that After Effects, you might have dozens of applications, which is how they're using the tool to get a particular result that could create completely different buyer bases.
Mm.
You know, maybe you have television animators and it's everyone together is going to create an opening for a TV sequence. You know, there's so many things that you could do there at different levels, beginner, medium, advanced, and beyond, and so many different niches or different kinds of people.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.